Yeah, good morning, Eric.
Morning, Mr. K.
All right, so today we talk about something related to the virus, yeah, the COVID-19. Yep, and then the video that I share with you talk about whether the Omicron variant will wipe out the Delta virus. Yep, and then whether it will bring to an end uh, of the pandemic. Yeah, and then yeah, to me, I think for the first part of the question, which is uh, the Delta and the Omicron, and yeah, I think this is mm, this is quite possible to happen. Yeah, I mean, the Delta is slowly uh, reduced, and then the Omicron is kind of like slowly defeating Delta and become the majority of the cases. Yep. And yeah, for the second part of the question, I think this is more difficult to predict correctly. And it's kind of like nobody can really predict what will happen. Yep. And for this video, I think the part that I I'm interested in is the three scenarios which the doctors predict. Yeah, and he predicts that we could end up in either one. Maybe like the first is one major strain of virus every year. The second is the dengue fever. Uh, uh, the, the second is virus is similar to the dengue fever. And the third is the Omicron becomes the king of the virus and it will spread widely to the majority. And at the end, it will wipe out the whole pandemic. Yeah. So, yeah, what is your opinion on these three scenarios?
Mm, yeah, I think it's quite likely. Mm, there are these three scenarios.
Mm, yep. And then actually, I couldn't differentiate the first and the second. Uh, yeah, I don't know whether you can do that. One is like one major strain of virus, and second is the dengue fever. And uh, I did a quick research about the dengue fever and found that actually dengue fever is quite similar to the seasonal flu, but maybe it's the method of transmission is
Mm,
different.
yeah, I think mm, for the first one is kind of like the flu. So in Western country when they need to travel to other country, they need to take the vaccines
Mm,
before they take the plans or before the yeah uh take the ship or
mm,
else. And yeah, because the flu and the flu is keep the virus of the flu is keep mutating. And
mm,
then so yeah, so in order to prevent to get the flu, and then they need to take the vaccines. And if you get the flu, would it make you die? Yes, there's a possibility it will make you die, but it's very very uh sorry, I mean, there's a small probability will cause you die, but it's
mm,
a very very small chance.
mm,
Yeah. And if you look at our current the COVID-19, actually you can s- you can actually feel that the narrative start to change. Initially, everyone fear about the COVID-19. They will
mm,
say, "Oh, yeah, it is transmission, the transmission, the tra- the contagions and the transmissions is so strong,
mm,
and then it is worse than the SARS, and and worse than the cholera." I didn't if I pronounce correctly, and they compare with the very strong virus,
Mm.
and they will say like this: okay, even though the death rate is not that high, but because of the strong transmissions, okay, and then it actually will make more people die, and it also will would kind of like hurt our economy, hurt our daily life
Mm.
more severe, yeah, and also more serious. And you also can see that, yeah, it's quite true. And but now the virus is still the virus, even though you say okay, Delta, the symptoms become stronger, right?
Mm.
And also the transmissions rate increase, and also plus the seriousness also increase.
Yeah.
But if you compare at that time and compare, sorry, if you compare the original virus and the time, the tools we have, and also compare to nowadays what we have and what the virus look like, it's actually is almost the same.
Mm.
The original case we don't have vaccines, and the original virus is not that strong, yeah, compared to the Delta virus.
Yeah.
And yeah, and but now everyone had taken vaccines, and Delta virus become stronger. You can see there is something like uh the net impact is not very significant if you compare over times.
Mm.
Whether we are whether we actually are getting better or we actually are getting worse. This is quite ambiguous.
Mm.
And what is clear is the government have more experience to deal with this thing.
Mm.
Yeah, they control better, and they don't need to lock down the whole country. Even though uh, once or 2 years ago we locked down, but it's just temporarily stop the transmissions of the virus. But after we open up, and then the virus starts to start to transmit. So this is not a good way. So far, every government, everyone's know lockdown is not a good way.
Mm.
Mm. But at that time, we prefer lockdown. Mm.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. At that time, with so many uncertainty and fears, right?
Mm. And also, when I say the narrative change is not about, it's not just about the mass media. It's not just about what the government told us. Yes,
Mm.
this is a major, because they are the biggest influence at here.
Mm. Yeah.
And but how about normal people, individual, because cannot they cannot keep locking themselves at home,
Yeah.
no matter mentally or no matter physically. Yeah, they desire to go out. Mm.
Mm.
And I remember 1 years ago, maybe it's few months ago, maybe
Yeah.
6 or 7 months ago, we have one topic which is about the anti-mask event.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, at that time you look at the event is quite stupid, but nowadays we can say more and more people aware that okay, COVID-19 is real, okay, but more and more people also refuse to wear mask. You can see it happen in Western country, of course in Asian country, because we are so how to say uh uh in Chinese we call 听话的孩子, and in English we call the child who will always listen to their parents. Yeah, in Asian country we are kind of like
Yeah.
in our culture we have this kind of uh personality or attitude. We
Obedience,
tend
right? Something like that.
we tend to take and believe what government told us. But in Western country, it's not like this. If you want to see the trend, you have to see the Westerns, because human freedom is promoted at Westerns in Western country, but they're aware about it. They know that COVID-19 is real, but they care about other things. Yeah, they also care about other things. They just don't want to wear masks. And some of them don't want to take vaccines. And if you look at the vaccination rate, US vaccination rate is not the highest. Yeah, compared to some other countries that have stronger authority.
Yeah.
And do they know about the seriousness? They know, but they choose not to take vaccines. And if you compare this, the net impact is unclear, and only narrative change. And when people do that, do the thing I mentioned above, and also it's actually quite similar in Asian country. Even though we still wear a mask, but we go out more often, right? This is quite obvious, right? We go out more often, even though we still wear a mask. And how many people still use a hand sanitizer all the day? Yeah.
For me, yes. How about you?
Okay. I think I didn't use hand sanitizer all the time from the start of the pandemic. Yeah, even though in my house I still have a bottle of hand sanitizer. Yeah, which is when I take the vaccines, and then the government give me, but I didn't use it. And you see this, and also you can see the behavior change.
Attitude also.
You also can see the attitude, the thoughts on the virus have changed. More and more people think about, this is a flu. And I'm not sure other countries' government, but for Singapore governments, it keep kind of like want to insert an idea, which is we need to stay together. The virus is here to stay. We need to adapt to it. Yeah, and then this is not very serious. Actually, nowadays, the virus is not very serious, and and the people can kind of like quarantine themselves at home. They can recover at home, especially for those vaccinated people. They don't need to go to the community house, or go to the hospital, the clinic. They don't need to do that. They can stay at home, and then it will recover. Yeah. And it's true. It's true. And but what I want to highlight is about the narrative, which is the government will tell you this is a flu, and then your employer will also tell you this is a flu, because they want to calm you down. They want you to come to work. Yeah. They want you to less afraid on that, less worry about that, so you can focus on work. And employer need to do that. Otherwise, the progress cannot go forward. So employer, even though they don't believe, but they will say you like this: every time there's a person got the COVID-19 tested positive, no matter it's ART, no matter it's PCR, in company, no matter it's at the office site, no matter it's at their home. Yeah. And when employer feel employees is worried about that, employer will use this kind of narrative to convince to calm the employee down. Yeah. And how about individual? When you got the COVID-19, when your family member got the COVID-19, when you yourself got the COVID-19, will you use this kind of narrative to convince yourself, to persuade yourself it's okay? You will, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can see the narrative start to change, and people change their behavior, change their attitude, and attitude and behavior also can change, will reinforce themselves. Yeah, and then you can see quite big difference. The behavior, the difference is quite big. Yeah, and what I want to say is the net impact of the virus to us is quite unclear. Maybe slightly worse, maybe slightly better. But what change significance is our attitude to the COVID-19, to the virus.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think with the first original COVID-19 virus until today, after Delta and now it's Omicron, and people started to have more understanding about the severity, the consequence of the virus, right? So our attitude changed. Even though until today's, I think it is going uh, to go high again. I mean, the peak of the pandemic is yet to come, maybe in the following months.
But people don't afraid anymore.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. And in Malaysia, it is something like first. At the beginning, maybe like in 2020, maybe the first half year, if let's say if one person got infected the COVID-19 virus in a shopping mall, and the shopping mall will be closed down for like maybe a week, right? The whole shopping malls, and after that, maybe after a year, and they just close the shop only that which the infected person used to go to. Yeah, so they just maybe close down a few shops, and the other shops can still open as usual.
Yeah, do you still remember how the attitude, the narrative changed in Malaysia, especially for public? Okay, initially I think Malaysia controlled quite well, right? Until the Sabah case, the Sabah case kind of like increase the transmissions, increase the contagions. Is it?
Is it Sabah? The one that I remember is in Kuala Lumpur, which a group of people coming from other countries.
Yeah, but okay, but I remember, I think it's late 2020, the Sabah Sarawak, got a lot of people got the COVID-19, and then at that time, there are some people travel to Sabah Sarawak, and then they got the COVID-19, and then they come back. Maybe they come back to the KL, because KL is the airport. So they come back in maybe JB or Penang, and then it start to spread.
Yeah.
And then when I see the chart, now I looking at the chart, Malaysia COVID-19 case, and yeah, in the late 2020 until the earlier 2021, the case actually topped at around 3,500. Yeah, and at that time, if I'm not wrong, the country actually did a lockdown, right? Did another lockdown, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like almost near to full lockdown. Yeah. And because I remember at that time, my mother actually couldn't work for 2 months, stay at home, no income. Yeah, and after that, the curve go down. Okay, the daily new case go down, and then it start to rise again. Maybe because of the Delta virus,
mm,
maybe because of the Delta variant, or maybe because just nature. Yeah, it's just nature. You
mm,
couldn't control it.
yep,
And then after that, uh, it seems like Malaysia don't do lockdown, don't do lockdown anymore, right?
mm, yep. No big size, the big scale lockdown,
Mm,
and maybe just if have maybe just a small area, I think.
mm.
Mm,
Yeah, and the peak is on around August, uh, the end of the August, and it's around like 22,600. It's around this number. Yeah. So compare in the late 2020, the top is around sorry, I think it's around 4,000. Okay, yeah, it's around like it's around like 4,300. It's around
mm,
4,300, and then the August 2021 peak is around 22,000.
mm,
Yeah, so it's how many times?
mm, yep,
Yeah,
5.
yeah, it's around five. Mm. And yeah, so but the but the way of doing things have changed. They don't
Mm,
lock down. Mm. And
yep,
then government start to shift your focus. Don't look at the daily new case. Look at the vaccination rate. Is it
mm,
good? Uh, I would say is it right? Yeah, we shouldn't look at the daily new case anymore. We should look at the vaccination rate. Mm.
mm, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and for individuals, I think firstly, maybe we are so afraid of getting the virus. We think like we need to try our best to avoid getting it, and getting it is kind of like equal to die or what. Yeah,
Mm.
and after that, after we get vaccination, and at the same time the COVID cases keep increasing, and I think in people's mind, more or less, we are thinking something like uh, as long as we don't get the virus and then need to be taken to hospital.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe we really switch our attitude from really fear to the attitude towards like maybe some seasonal flu.
Mm.
Mm, yep. And yeah, I think just now you also mentioned some problems with the this COVID-19, and yeah, I think mainly there are three big problems uh, for this virus, for this pandemic, and the first one is the overloaded medical system. Yeah, for this one, not long ago, when I was watching television, and that is the news from the Singapore TV program, and it says that even though the new virus variant Omicron is not that severe at the aspect of transmission, the severe symptom, yeah, it didn't generate severe symptom. It only most of the case it generate mild symptom. But because of the high transmission, and it actually make more people uh, get hospitalized. And yeah, I think this is one of the biggest challenges to every country. Even though we can say the death rate reduced, but how about if uh, more and more people get the virus, and can the hospital really deal with it? Yeah, because more people get the virus, more people will be taken to the hospital.
Mm. I think it's just a bullshit.
Oh.
To me, it's just bullshit. If you look at Singapore, if you pull the chart out, in the end of the April 2020, there are so many people got COVID-19, especially for the foreign worker who live in the dormitory, if I didn't pronounce.
Yeah, you can just say dome.
Yeah, they live in a dorm, and then a lot of people got the COVID-19, and then how they do it? How Singapore government able to settle it? And at that time, we didn't suffer from the the overload, the hospitalization overload. And at that time, daily new cases around 900 to 1,000. And when the times keep going, okay, if you look at the around the August, around the September, August, okay, there's a huge spike. There's a huge spike, and they're still able to manage. Okay, you see, they're still able to manage and let the curve comes down. And also, okay, one of the thing is you need to kind of like compare. Now almost everyone take vaccines. I think the vaccination rate, the people who have taken 2 vaccines, like, is more than, if I'm not wrong, it's more than 85% or 90%. Now, some of them just cannot take vaccine.
Yeah.
And if you compare previously, the April 2020, no people take vaccines. Yeah, they're still able to control that, and almost no people died at that time. And you want to say the virus becomes stronger? Yeah. Or maybe the virus becomes stronger and vaccinated people, the severity is actually reduced. It's actually reduced because I see a lot of people can recover from home. They don't need to go to the hospital. And at that time, government will send all the people, which is in April 2020. They'll send all of them go to community and let them rest there. Yeah, no people go into the ICU. Yeah, sir. We got, but not many. Yeah, we got, but not many. But how about now? Yeah, you want to say, okay, vaccinated people, they don't need to go to the ICU, but unvaccinated, most of them will go to ICU. And Singapore government also say that, the facility at the ICU actually taken by most of the people who were unvaccinated. Okay, but as more and more people got the COVID-19, more and more unvaccinated got the COVID-19, the curve will come down. Right? They got the COVID-19. They have the nature antibodies. And also try to think that we already experienced one major spike, which is in September or October 2021.
Yeah.
And if you say at that time your ICU facility is actually taken, was taken by most of the unvaccinated, how many percent? The first question is how many percent? How many unvaccinated people? And also another question is how much ICU facility you have. You say uh, okay, for example, you have only 10 ICU wards. Sure, you'll get overload. But if you have 100, you have 1,000, you have 1,000, you have 10,000, you have 100,000, and you
Yeah.
overload, yeah, this is a problem. But it also means that the overload of the ICU wards at that time will turn to a strength to your country in future. Do you get what it means?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
Okay, unvaccinated is will get more serious symptoms, and they need to go to ICU, right?
Yeah.
And after they got and after they go to ICU, after they recover from it, and if they got the COVID-19 again, do they still need to go to ICU?
Probably not, because
Probably not.
they have the antibodies.
Yeah, and at that time, September to October, daily new cases around. Okay, I couldn't see a daily new case because sorry, I couldn't see the average daily new case because it's just a spike. But I think it's around, maybe it's around 2,000. Okay, average is around 2,000. So this is the average in this period is all-time high. We never experienced this average high before. And daily new case is 2,000. How many people are unvaccinated? How many people go to ICU? How many people recover from it? Yeah, will you still experience will you still experience a more serious ICU overload or less? Of course, less, because more and more people, most of the unvaccinated, some of the unvaccinated people got the COVID-19 and then they recover from it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So it is something like we have two ways to get the antibodies from to the antibodies of the COVID-19, right? One is we take the vaccine, we take the initiative, and the other one is like people who don't take vaccine, maybe they get infected, and both of the methods also they can get the antibodies, right? Yeah, this is a good point, because previously I only look at the vaccine, and then I almost forgot the point that also mentioned in the video, which is people who get let's say the Omicron virus, and they actually the
Neutralize.
antibodies to fight against the Delta virus is actually increased. So that is why they say the Delta virus will be wiped out by the Omicron virus. Yep. Yeah, but right. The hospital isn't at least at current moment. Yeah, even though the cases is really high in some country like the U.S., but most people can rest at home and then recover. They don't have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, compared to 1 year ago, maybe many of them need to go to hospital. Right? So if you want to say the ICU overload, I don't believe that.
Yep. I think at least right now. The second problems I would like to point out is the mutation. Yeah, the mutation here. I'm an outsider of this field, and I'm not sure whether the mutation will make the virus stronger or weaker. Right now, Omicron compared to Delta, the transmission ability is stronger, and the symptom that they generate is lesser.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we couldn't assure that one day if the transmission ability is high and the damage it causes is also severe, can it have this kind of possibility?
There always has a possibility. But is it probable? No, I would say not probable. Yeah, because for virus, if you want to survive, you either less transmissible and then very serious. And if the transmission is very high, and then the symptoms is very strong, the severity is very strong, and the virus cannot survive. You know why? Because the virus, you can't think like this. The virus also a human. Human want to eat. The virus comes to your body. They want to eat. They want to grow. They want to expand itself. Yeah, they want to reproduce. And try to imagine. Yeah, human population is quite transmissible, quote unquote transmissible, because the growing rate is so high. If you look at the last century, the last I want to say the last century. I want to say the last century, but I'm not sure whether it's in that period. I think it's not. I think it's the bit start from 50 years ago after the World War II. Yeah, this is a period, and then you can see the human population grow very fast.
Yeah.
But it comes to a point that we know that we couldn't grow so fast. Yeah, because all of us will die eventually if we keep the rate like this. And also, physically, we couldn't support our survival. The virus is also the same. Yeah, because this is a law of nature. And also, human is smart. Human can deal with it. And if the virus is really that strong, yeah, human will use any possible way to kill them. Yeah, if this is so severe, human will use any other possible way to let the virus die. And the virus is not going to fight with humans in long term. So okay, the I want to say is here there is a free market mechanism. And if the virus want to grow, yeah, it can increase the transmissions. Okay, yeah. The virus want to spread all around the world. Okay, and every human could deal with it. And then virus also need to mutate, but the severity will become lesser and lesser. Yeah, and if you kind of like think like this, you can specialize in one thing, but you can't do the both thing. The virus mutation, at the same time you can of course you can focus on the transmissions, but you also can focus on the severity, but you can't do the both at a very specialized.
Yeah, and it makes me think of some animals who are lower in the chain, in the food chain. They can have high reproduction rate, right? But yeah, they are kind of like couldn't compete with other stronger animals.
Yeah, and if the virus mutate, can do very well at these two parts, like the Delta variants, and there's a high probability that this virus will be wiped out. No matter is actually opt out by another virus which has higher transmission, just like the Omicron. and less severity, because Omicron just focus on the transmissions, and then Omicron do it very, very well, and it is so well they can opt out the Delta variants. And even though if you see if there is no Omicrons, we only have the Delta variants, can human deal with it? Yeah, we can deal with it.
Yeah,
deal with it
because
quite
it is
quite
less
good.
transmissible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and no, I mean it's less transmissible than the Omicron, but it's more transmissible than the original virus, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but human also can deal with it. Once we control down, and then we are not afraid of Delta virus anymore. Yeah, and then if you kind of like move forwards and you see, even though we don't have Omicron, let's say the case is we don't have Omicrons, and then the Delta variants and no other mutation, the Delta variants eventually will go away. Yeah, the Delta variants eventually will go away.
Yeah.
Other if the Delta variants don't want to go away, or don't want to die, okay, either it improve the transmission rate again, and also at the same time it improve the severity again. Yeah, so it focus on the direction. Yeah, you want to do both things well, and human also are able to deal with it. The innovation is keep going. Now we kind of like have the oral pill, right? But it is still in the, maybe it's the clinical stage. Yeah, and human is always deal with it, and and we are kind of like fight against we are fight with the virus. The virus can mutate, and we have the technology. Which one grow faster? Yeah, I think human innovation, human technology will grow faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though let's say human cannot deal with it, human cannot deal with it due to any kind of problem, and the virus becomes so strong, but the virus will not keep mutating, will not become more strong and more strong and more strong. Yeah. If there is no environment can treat the survival, and it may grow stronger. Okay, let's say the worst scenario, it keep grow stronger, and human couldn't deal with it. What will happen? What will happen?
I think many people will be sacrificed, maybe die, like let's say 20% of the world population, and then the number of the cases started to reduce.
Yeah, human will react to that, and maybe scary thing will happen. Yeah, maybe your employer don't allow you to go to come to office, or maybe the government really want to lock you at home. Yeah, or maybe the overload, after the overload of the ICU, people cannot go to ICU, and they just die.
Yeah,
they just die. No need to kill. Yeah. So, and maybe the most scariest thing in maybe in a country, for example, like is this the North Korea? Yeah, the strong authority ones.
North Korea.
The North Korea, maybe it will start to kill people. Start to kill those people who got the COVID-19. Yeah, if someone get the COVID-19, just kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the best way to stop.
Just like the way that they treat maybe some chicken that infected with some virus, right? In the farm, they kill all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And human is not going to disappear from this pandemic. This is for sure. If you want to say is there any possibility, I will say zero. Yeah. Yeah, there's no possibility human would disappear because of this pandemic. Yeah. And normally we say a thing, there always has a possibility to happen. But in this case, sorry, no possibility.
Yeah.
Because human will think, human will behave, will go will fight with will fight with the virus. Human is not stupid.
Yep.
And
yeah, so I think
what I miss here is there's a free market mechanism. And if you look at if you don't think the worst case, if you think what is likely to happen, which is the mutated virus which has higher transmissions rate will opt out the virus which want to do both things and then has less and then has a relatively less transmission rate. Yeah, and also one thing you have to know is more and more people get a COVID-19 and then they have the antibody. So eventually virus will just go away.
Yeah. And not to mention the worst case that we will talk about just now. I think one more thing which is also can be threatening, which is for the elderly people, maybe like 60 years old and above. I think if the virus keep mutating, and even though we have something like vaccine or what, but we couldn't avoid the fact that elderly people, they have lower lower
survival rate, death rate,
immune system, right? Something like that.
Okay.
That they have weaker immune system, and in turn, the death rate, will be higher for them.
But you know what? Maybe more elderly people die is good for a country because the country no longer need to pay them the what is it called, the retirements, the retirements reward or retirements payments, and kind of like the providence funds, which is in Malaysia we call EPF, in Singapore we call CPF,
pension fund.
Pension fund. What I want to say is that and then the pension fund will have less burden on that. And if you look at right now, pension fund really cannot generate much yield, but they have to pay you the interest. But the interest you see on the paper maybe 6%, maybe 5%, maybe 4%. Okay, and this is just a paper gain. Do they really have that much money? Can they really generate that much money? Do they have a chance to lose the money?
Besides the pension funds, also for some countries, they have the medical plans for medical scheme, right, for elderly people. That will also be a big amount of expenses for government. And Yeah, lastly, I would like to talk about something beside problems. We look at the opposite, like some bright sides of the pandemic. Yeah, I think with the pandemic, it somehow pushed the technologies forward. Yeah, for
Mm,
example, uh, many things that can be done online right now, and uh, maybe in the future it pushed forward the technologies like VR. um, People don't have to attend maybe classes, or they don't have to go to the shopping mall to try the clothes before they buy. Yeah, I think this is one of the positive things we can see, right?
mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, maybe pandemic uh, is a overall will have a positive impact to the country or to the government all around the world. If you look at 5 years later, if you look back from 5 years, or you look back from 10 years, because you know
Mm,
why? Mm, actually, we have a cycle, okay, which is maybe it's kind of like every 80 years or 200 years, we will have a big war. If you
mm,
see in the United States, if you see in other country, other developed country, maybe UK, maybe Germany, maybe France, maybe Russia,
mm,
India, China, those big country, you can see they have a cycle. Every 80 years, the problem will keep accumulate until a point that the problem is so big and cannot be solved. And then the younger generation want to take over the control. And the older generation who are on the seat, yeah, who have the control right now,
yeah.
they will they will they are forced to fight with the younger generation. And
Mm,
younger generation didn't experience the war, so they're not afraid. Yeah, they are excited to have a fight.
mm,
But older generation, they know the war is very, very terrible. But why every 80 years will occur? Because now the older generation didn't experience the war, and then the younger generation, of course, also didn't experience the war. So when you have these two generations that didn't experience the war and they want to take the control, they fight with each other, the war is likely to happen.
mm,
And
yeah.
plus the problem accumulates so huge. Yeah, plus the problem accumulates so huge. And people and, and some trend you can see, which is the control keep increasing, the authority control keep increasing. And actually it's bad. And more people aware, more and more people value their personal freedom, the individual freedom, uh, higher. Yeah, and also they start to realize that, wait a minute, why I want to live like this? Why I want to listen to those central authority and work for so many decades in order to retire? And also they couldn't promise my retire because maybe the inflation is so high. Maybe the debt level of them is so high.
Mm,
Yeah, or maybe they'll have many they'll have many reasons. Every reason can be the trigger. Yeah, maybe the race the race issue. Yeah, I think the next I think the next crisis in Malaysia will be the race issue. You can start to see the trend. Yeah, it's quite terrible. And And for US, for the Western country, maybe it could be culture, it could be anything. It really can be anything. So everything can be the trigger. Just because the problem from every aspect keep accumulate, and then until a point that there's no way to solve.
Yeah.
So the younger generation want to destroy everything and then rebuild it again. And older generation want to protect it. And if you see about the pandemic, and every time if old generation win from the game, and you can foresee that the decline of the country. But when the younger generation take over the control, you can see there's a higher probability of the rise of the country. Younger generation, of course, is a hope for country. Yeah, this is the law.
Yeah.
And so you need to see whether the transition, whether the transition of the control from the older generation to the younger generation is smooth or not. Yeah, if it's not smooth, and then you have a lot of fight, and then you kind of lose your competitive advantage to other countries. So maybe you finally get the transition from older generation to younger generation in terms of control, but if the process is not smooth, it also can cause the country lose the competitive advantage to other big country. Maybe US lose to China, or lose to India, or lose to Europe. Yeah, it's something like that. Or maybe China lose the competition. So yeah, so US will remain the strongest, because now you see the China is kind of like the tension between China and Taiwan is so strong right now. So you can't assure that they will not have a war between these two countries in future. Yeah. Yeah, and so every maybe it's kind of like 80 to 100 years we have this kind of cycle. And if you look at now the pandemic, so it's a natural disaster. And the older generations, because of the progress of technology moving so fast, and everyone focus on the pandemic, including the older generation, and they are losing control, and they have no way, because they have to rely on the technology, otherwise everyone cannot survive. Try to imagine if we don't have the online meeting platform, we don't have the Zoom, we don't have a Skype, we don't have maybe a Google Classroom. Yeah, how the world will look like, how people cooperate. Yeah, and the technology just moving faster and faster, and also in crypto industry, younger generation take over the control, obviously. And so when older generation, they are losing control, at the same time they want to keep the control, maybe they want to fight, but they have less what I want to say is less cheap trauma. Yeah, there's less chip on their hand after this pandemic. Yeah, younger people have more chips on hand, so the transition may be smoother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, anything want to add in?
Yeah, for me here, I think I have covered all the point that I would like to talk about. How about you?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so let's
Okay,
put an
so
end here for today's
mm,
conversation.
yeah, talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, talk to you tomorrow. Bye, Eric.
Bye.